All right, so Nietzsche, the Antichrist. Sounds intense, right? But this video, it actually makes it, I don't know, kind of relatable.
It really does. I mean, who would have thought Nietzsche could be so, well, relevant to us today?
I know, right? Like, the Antichrist, I mean, just the title, it's pretty out there.
Yeah, a lot of people just assume it's, him just ranting against Christianity. But the video, it digs a bit deeper.
So what's the real deal then?
Well, it's more like he's taking a huge step back
Yeah.
and sort of reevaluating, like, all the values, the stuff we just take for granted.
Okay, so not just a religious thing then.
No, not at all. Like Nietzsche, he was convinced that a lot of what we connect with Christianity, stuff like compassion and humility, even self-sacrifice, he called it slave morality.
Slave morality. Okay, that's a new one.
Yeah, he basically thought it weakened people, kept them, I don't know, subservient.
Wow. Yeah, I can see how that was probably a bit much for people back in the 1800s.
Oh, totally. It was radical.
Yeah.
And it gets even wilder. He even questioned the whole idea of truth. Like, sometimes illusions are better than the hard truth.
Yeah, starting to see why he wasn't exactly everyone's cup of tea. But, okay, here's the thing the video brought up that I thought was really interesting. It seems like nowadays there's this, I don't know, this questioning of all the traditional stuff, institutions, values, just like Nietzsche was doing way back when.
It's true. And that's where things get really interesting, right? Like,
Yeah.
the video makes you think. It asks, are the values we're living by actually doing us any good? Or are they, holding us back somehow?
Yeah, that's a pretty deep question. So what kind of examples did the video give for this whole slave morality thing? Like, what did Nietzsche see it in?
Well, it brought up consumerism. That idea that we've got to have more stuff to be happy, a bigger house, the latest gadgets, that whole deal.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And the video argues that this whole, like, chasing after stuff, it's actually, in a way, a form of slave morality because it keeps us focused on, like, external things instead of, building our inner strength, reaching our full potential, all that.
And then there's the whole social media thing. It's all about likes and validation, right?
Totally. Like, we're constantly looking for approval from other people instead of, like, trusting our own gut, our own values. And the video, it suggests that this need to be validated all the time. That could be another, like, symptom of slave morality.
So, okay, how do we break free from all this slave morality, according to Nietzsche? The video mentions this will to power idea.
Ah, yeah, will to power. It's kind of at the core of his whole philosophy. A lot of people get it wrong, though. They think it's about, dominating others, being all powerful, but it's not really that.
So it's not about power over other people.
Right. It's more about mastering yourself, pushing yourself to overcome your limits to be the best you can be.
I like that. Reaching your full potential, not letting other people's expectations hold you back.
Exactly. And the video, it uses this really cool visual, like a whiteboard with will to power written in huge letters. And then it breaks down what it really means. It's
Hmm.
all about personal growth, being creative, having that drive to be your best self.
Okay, starting to see how this all connects, this critique of slave morality and then will to power. It's all about like empowerment, taking control of your own life.
Exactly. And that leads us to another really important idea from the video, embracing the here and now.
Ah, yeah, that was coming up, wasn't it? I think the video said slave morality keeps you focused on the future or the afterlife or something, whereas will to power is about like living fully in the moment.
That's it. Nietzsche was convinced that thinking too much about the future or the afterlife, well, it could just distract you from the beauty and the potential that's right here, right now.
So how does all this fit with his critique of Christianity?
Well, he saw that whole emphasis on heaven and salvation as a way of kind of like devaluing life on earth. Like it encouraged people to just wait for some reward in the future instead of facing the challenges and enjoying the good stuff in the present.
I get it. So for Nietzsche, living in the moment, it was about like reclaiming your power, living more authentically.
Yeah, and it all loops back to will to power because it's about taking control of your own experience, finding meaning and fulfillment right here, right now, not waiting for someone or something else to give it to you.
Wow. Yeah, that makes me think about all the times I've put off something I actually enjoy just because I was worried about the future or, I don't know, stuck in the past.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
But Nietzsche, he's like snap out of it. His philosophy, it's about breaking that cycle and really starting to live. And the video even gets into some practical stuff like how do we actually do this?
Okay, yeah, because this all sounds pretty good in theory, but how do we actually make it happen?
Well, it talks about the importance of like really looking at yourself, questioning the values you've just accepted, and having the guts to create your own meaning.
So it's not about just blindly following Nietzsche's ideas, but using them as like a jumping off point for your own journey.
Exactly. Nietzsche, I think he'd probably want you to question even his own ideas. He believed real strength came from thinking critically and finding your own path.
Makes sense. So it's like this whole deep dive. It's about using the Antichrist as a, I don't know, like a lens to look at our own lives, the choices we make.
That's a great way to put it. And what I love is the video connects all these, big philosophical ideas to like real life stuff, everyday challenges.
This is already so insightful. I can't wait to hear more.
Me too. There's a lot more to unpack.
All right. So those modern examples of slave morality you were talking about before the break, I'm really curious to hear more about that.
Okay, yeah. So the video, it kind of starts by asking us to think about how certain systems or like ideologies, they could be, I don't know, subtly pushing us to live for the future or to deny our natural instincts. Kind of like what Nietzsche was saying about Christianity.
Okay, I'm listening. What kind of systems?
Well, it brings up consumerism as a prime example. We're always getting bombarded with these messages that happiness is all about getting more stuff, a bigger house, the newest phone, all that.
Yeah, oh, totally. It's like we can never be content with what we have. Always got to have the next thing.
Right. And the video, it argues that this whole like always wanting more, it can actually become a kind of slave morality
Mm-hmm.
because it keeps us chained to like external validation and just stuff, possessions. It keeps us from, looking inward and building up that strength and creativity that Nietzsche was talking about with the will to power.
That's a really interesting way to look at it. Never thought about consumerism like that before.
It's subtle, but it's everywhere. In the video, it doesn't stop there. It goes on to talk about social media too, suggesting that like this whole thing with likes and needing online validation, that could be another form of slave morality creeping in.
I can see that. It's like we're always looking for approval from other people instead of just like trusting ourselves, our own judgment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this need to be validated, it's powerful. It can shape how we act, the choices we make, and we might not even realize it. Almost like we become slaves to what other people think, which is exactly what Nietzsche was warning against.
So it's like trading in our will to power for, I don't know, a couple of likes on a post.
That's a good way to put it. And the video even connects this back to Nietzsche's critique of Christianity, saying that both systems kind of encourage us to deny ourselves in a way. Like with Christianity, it's denying our earthly desires for that heavenly reward. And with social media, it's like denying our true selves to present this like perfect online persona.
So the big question is, how do we get out of this? How do we break free from these sneaky versions of slave morality that are like baked into our culture?
Well, the video suggests that we start by just noticing it, become aware of how these systems might be affecting you, your thoughts, your behavior.
So step back, take a look around, and question all those assumptions we have about, I don't know, happiness, success, what a good life is supposed to look like.
Exactly. It's about taking back that will to power, that inner strength, to create your own meaning, define your own values, instead of just blindly accepting whatever's been given to you or sold to you.
I like that. That's a powerful message. But honestly, it's also a bit overwhelming, isn't it? Like, where do you even start to dismantle something that big?
I hear you. But the video, it offers some practical stuff too. Like start with small things, little acts of, I don't know, self-empowerment. Think about what's one thing you've been putting off that you could actually do today. Or maybe it's about setting a boundary, saying no to something that's just draining you, or making time for something that, feeds your soul.
Yeah, those are good ideas. It's about those little steps, taking back control, starting to live more intentionally.
Exactly. And even something as simple as, I don't know, going for a walk in nature, really appreciating things, having a real conversation with someone you care about. These can all be ways of connecting with the present moment, tapping into that will to power.
Little acts of rebellion against whatever's trying to control us dictate our values.
Right. And as we build up this awareness, this sense of, like, I've got this, then we can start to push back against the bigger systems, the ones that are keeping that slave morality alive.
I like that. It's not about rejecting everything, but becoming more aware and making choices that, fit with what we truly value, what we want to achieve.
Yeah, exactly. It's about becoming the artists of our own lives, like Nietzsche would say, and using that will to power to create something real, something authentic.
I love that. And I think that leads perfectly into the next thing the video talks about, creating your own meaning.
Yes, this is where it gets really exciting. Nietzsche was convinced that In a world where there are no absolute truths, we have this incredible freedom, but also this responsibility to create our own values, our own path.
So meaning doesn't come from outside anymore, like from religion or society. It has to come from within.
That's it. And the video really emphasizes how liberating this can be. Nietzsche's basically saying there's no script, no rule book. You get to decide what matters and live by it.
That's incredibly empowering, but also kind of scary, right? Like, where do you even begin?
Well, the video suggests looking at your own experiences, your passions, your values. What brings you joy? What are you good at? What do you care about deeply?
So tap into what makes you feel alive, what gives you a sense of purpose, direction.
Exactly. And as you start to figure those things out, you can start building a life that reflects them, a life that's truly yours.
I love that. It's like we're writing our own stories and we get to choose how they unfold.
And like any good writer, you got to be bold, experiment, be willing to mess up, and learn from it. Nietzsche believed this whole process of self-discovery, it's a journey, a constant effort, and you got to be open to the unknown.
So it's not about having all the answers right away. It's about the exploration, the creation.
Precisely. In that journey, for Nietzsche, that was the whole point of life, you know?
Yeah.
It's about always striving to be better, to push past your limits, to create a world that reflects what you value, what you aspire to.
That's pretty inspiring. But how does all this connect back to the Antichrist? I mean, we've been talking about a lot of different things here.
Yeah, good point. It's important to remember that the Antichrist, it was, in a way, a wake-up call. Nietzsche was trying to shake people up, make them question all those values and beliefs that were holding them back.
So it wasn't really a how-to guide. It was more about getting people fired up to take charge of their own lives, create their own meaning.
Exactly. And I think that message is just as important now as it was back then. We're living in a world that's constantly trying to get our attention, tell us what to buy, how to look, what to believe.
Yeah, it's like we're bombarded with all these messages all the time.
Right. And it's easy to get lost in all of that, to forget what truly matters. But Nietzsche reminds us, we have the power to resist, to tap into that will to power, and create a life that is truly our own, that's authentic and meaningful.
That's a really powerful message, but I imagine it can be pretty tough to actually put all this into practice.
Oh, definitely. It takes guts, self-awareness, and a willingness to, challenge the way things are. But according to Nietzsche, the rewards are worth it.
So what can we do? What are some real concrete steps to start applying these ideas to our lives? I'm ready for some practical tips.
Well, the video, it's got some good suggestions for that too. It's all about making small, conscious choices every day.
Yeah, so the video, it suggests starting with something simple, like setting aside some time each day just to reflect. Think about your values, your goals, the things that really matter to you.
Okay, so like taking a break from the craziness, all the distractions, and just listening to yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And once you have a better idea what you want your life to be, then you can start making choices that actually fit with those values, even if it means, going against what everyone else expects.
Right, like having the guts to say no to stuff that just drains you, even if it means, I don't know, maybe letting someone down or stepping outside your comfort zone a little.
Absolutely. And it also means saying yes to the things that excite you, challenge you, help you grow, even if they seem, I don't know, unconventional or maybe a bit risky.
So embracing that adventurous side of Nietzsche, right? That willingness to experiment. Exactly. Seeing life as this like constant process of figuring yourself out, creating something new, not just following some preset path. And the video, it really emphasizes that this doesn't have to be, some huge dramatic thing. It can start with little everyday choices.
Like what? Give me some examples. I'm ready to put this into action.
Okay, well, it could be something as simple as, I don't know, choosing to go for a walk in nature instead of like scrolling through your phone. Or maybe finally signing up for that art class you've always been curious about, even if you're, worried you won't be any good at it.
Or like setting a boundary with that coworker who's always jumping extra work on you.
Yeah.
Even if it means having like a slightly awkward conversation.
Exactly. It's all about those small acts of like pushing back against the things that try to hold you down, keep you playing it safe.
I love that. Taking back your power little by little. But there's something else the video talked about that really stuck with me. This whole idea of like finding meaning in the moment, in the present.
Ah, yeah, that's a huge part of Nietzsche's philosophy. He thought that spending too much time dwelling on the past or worrying about the future, it just robs you of the joy and the energy that's right here, right now.
So how do we do that? How do we cultivate that sense of being present, especially in a world that's, constantly pulling us in a million directions?
The video, it talks about stuff like mindfulness and meditation. ways to, like, train your mind to focus on the present moment, appreciate the everyday stuff.
So slowing down, taking a deep breath, and really like noticing the richness of your experience.
Exactly. Noticing the little details, the sights, sounds, feelings, the stuff we usually just take for granted.
Like shifting your attention from the destination to the journey itself.
That's a great way to put it. And the video, it makes it clear that this isn't about just becoming, like, passive or detached from everything. It's about bringing more awareness, more intention to
Hmm.
everything you do.
So being more present, more engaged in life, even when things are tough, even when there are challenges.
Exactly. And for Nietzsche, that ability to find meaning and beauty in the moment, even when things are hard, that was a sign of real strength, real vitality.
Wow. This has been so eye-opening. I feel like I'm seeing things in a whole new way.
I know, right? It just shows you the power of Nietzsche's ideas. They might be over 100 years old, but they're still so relevant, so powerful.
So to wrap things up, if we're thinking about the Antichrist, what's the main takeaway for our listeners? What's the one thing you really want them to remember?
I think the biggest message is that we have the power to create our own meaning.
Sure.
Decide what our values are and live by them, even if it means questioning the way things are or going against what everyone expects.
It's about embracing that will to power, not in a like controlling way, but in a way that helps us live authentically, create a life that's truly our own.
Exactly. And it's about being aware of the ways that certain systems, certain ways of thinking, even the ones that seem harmless, can, chip away at our freedom, keep us from reaching our full potential.
So it's a call to action, right? A challenge to become more conscious, to make choices that really align with what we believe and what we want to achieve.
Absolutely. And this video we've been talking about, it does such a great job of taking these, like, complex philosophical ideas and turning them into practical advice, relatable examples that we can all use in our own lives.
This deep dive has been incredible, such a fascinating journey into Nietzsche's thought and how it connects to the world we live in today.
It's been a pleasure exploring all this with you.
And to our listeners, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep embracing that will to power as you create a life that's uniquely yours. Until next time, keep diving deep.